Morning, everybody. Welcome. Get those questions in if you'd like. We are here for you, your community in the distance. Good morning. Hope all are well. Bum, 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 bum. What is that?
Huh?
You're smiling.
I'm just making a ruckus over here.
No, it's okay. They don't mind. How's everybody doing? Still waiting? It's okay, don't worry. We still got 4 more minutes. Call your kids, call your grandparents, bring them all in together.
Yes.
Your friends, your enemies, whoever it is, come. All are welcome in this place. All are welcome. Yeah. bum 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 bum. This is John Donard is watching. Good.
I'm watching.
I always feel like somebody's watching me.
If I don't eat this bowl of cereal, I'll be cranky all fireside chat.
I understand.
You don't want that.
Feel similarly. Good morning, Donna and Bill. Good to see you all. I do force, so don't worry, you're coming. Just teasing.
Alright, well, I do believe it's that time.
See if I can get back here without making a mess. Nope. Oh. Alright. Oh, Duncan.
No, Duncan. Alright, well, let's get rolling.
Let's get with it today.
Let's get this party started. Ain't no party like a COVID party.
COVID party don't happen.
Stay home.
Stay at home. Get away.
Stay safe.
All right, well, welcome everybody. Good to have you here for the
morning.
Monday morning fireside chat. We are back. It's been a long time. It's been
Quite a long
5
time.
days.
4
4 days.
Yeah, something like that.
Days.
We did not have chat on Friday for the Chrism Mass that didn't happen.
Right. That was both of our faults.
I know.
We don't know how that exactly happened. I was telling Father Kent last week that I needed to start using my calendar again because during COVID-19 I really didn't use my calendar hardly at all because I had like 3 things to remember every week.
Right.
Luckily, this little mind here can remember 3 things. So I received an email that said the Chrism Mass is happening Friday, June 19th, and for some reason, that just meant it's happening
Friday.
this Friday.
Because there was a joint email where there was the meeting with the Archbishop and then it said Friday, June 19th, and I think both of us saw, okay, this week we have this and the
These
Chrism
two
Mass.
things, right?
Mhm.
Which made sense too, because we were supposed to be on our archdiocesan retreat last week,
Right.
and so I thought maybe, we're doing some events just to kind of bring us together during this time, since we can't be together for the retreat. But alas, and then John said just like 2 minutes after we closed the camera, I was like, "Isn't the Chrism Mass the 19th?" And like, oh, well, there it
Whoops.
is. So, well, we went ahead and just didn't do the chat on Friday because we'd already announced that we weren't. But it was also nice because both of us were able to be in the office for a little bit on Friday.
He and I had a nice long meeting where we
we
actually looked at our calendars.
We
and
went
the
through
whole
the
month of June.
calendar and scheduled things out, and we got masses scheduled for the rest of June, and then we'll take a look at July at some point. So, yeah, it was good. So it was nice to be back in the office. So,
Mhm.
and we're going to be getting into do more and more of that as we're just trying to get all caught up. Also got a good email from the Archbishop's office. There's a possibility, we're going to talk about this some more, but kind of plan out that the Archbishop might be able to come to do confirmations in July or August, which was about when we were planning to do if I was going to do the confirmations as well. It was about the same time, so we might see if we can just get the Archbishop in, so that'd be great. So everything is changing. I think today the phase 3 of Ad Astra opened up for Kansas.
Oh,
I think
really?
that there's
What does that mean now?
I
Can I go down to the dance hall and do the jitterbug with my friends?
You cannot, but that has nothing to do with COVID.
Oh, pop.
Corn pop.
So yeah,
Corn pop. Sorry.
I don't know exactly what that means for the COVIDness and for phase 3, but we I guess we're in phase 3 now. So look that up, do some Googling and see what that means for you. So things are slowly opening up. But I do mention that because this was our first weekend for really public masses for anybody, non-First Communion. I think that there's been
There we go.
some people expressing, are we going over the top with our protections or whatever? I don't know. Father Ashmore makes fun of my line, so I won't say it, but you all know my line, so I don't know what it's going to be.
Have I ever made fun of it?
Yes.
No, that's not true. I made a meme once with it. Once.
Maybe I make fun of me putting things into Father Ashmore's head about him making fun of me.
Now I'm all like, self-conscious.
No, I'm just kidding. But so maybe we're being overcautious. Maybe we're not being cautious enough. I don't know. But we'll see. I think we'll have a better idea. I mean, there's been all the things with the Memorial Day and all the protests going on. So there's a lot more activity. I think we'll have a better idea of the virus in 14 days,
Yeah,
and we'll see.
Right.
So
And we're starting to get some of the research out from China at this point too, and that'll adjust how we see things too.
Right.
So
right.
it's all a process of learning.
Right. I think all of us could probably say, anyone in leadership positions could probably say mistakes were made. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
probably true. That
But in what situation is that not true too?
Well, sure.
It's- and I think it's important not to get too dramatic about these
No,
things.
no, no.
And I know that's
No.
not what you're doing.
No,
but it's like,
no.
mistakes are made because you're responding to the situation with the information that you have in hand.
Right, as
Yeah.
you know it.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, yeah. Yes, for any situation. I mean, like even with like the abuse crisis or whatever, certainly mistakes were made. But some of that was just bad information. You know, people used to think that people could be healed from those kinds of things, so they sent them to treatment centers, and so then they sent them to one person, they moved them around, and was that a bad idea? Yes.
Absolutely.
Was there some? There were some terrible things.
Absolutely.
Terrible things that happened. But some of them, I think, some of those were acting in the information that I have as like I want to get this person treatment. I want to get them better, and this seems right. So I think, but anyway, mistakes were made. So, but we'll live and learn, and moving right along. So, yeah. So if you want to come to Mass, again, there'll be a sign up Genius. I believe that will go up at noon on Wednesday. We had nice crowds for the 8 and the 10 o'clock and the 12:15. 12:15 was borderline full to our 125 number. That's we have kind of a number between 125 and 150 that can attend the Mass and will be at the 25% of capacity. 8 and 10 were not too close to that, but they still felt kind of fullish and pretty spread out. So we'll see what the response is here again. And so I've been asked a little bit of why aren't we just opening up the rest of the schedule? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, it's a lot of work to get all the cleaning and all the volunteers, and some people just aren't comfortable yet. And I really am not comfortable with making sure that we have a fleet of Eucharistic ministers and musicians and sound techs and all those things that go into making a Sunday Mass really what it should be. So we're just not at that point yet. So we're opening kind of slowly, and if there is a need, we will plan on opening the next piece is opening up the 5 o'clock Sunday Mass. So if we get really close to capacity at the 8 and the 10, we'll open up a third Mass to kind of spread things out. And then when that gets close to the capacity, or when we're just back to normal, whatever that is, we'll have the normal Mass schedule. So
Right.
but that's the current plan. Just we have the two until they get bigger. So.
It also gives us flexibility that if we need to plan special events for confirmation or other sacraments, it gives us flexibility not to have already a full schedule that we would be impeding upon. So,
Ruth says you can't be overcautious. Well, that's probably true.
I don't know about that. I think you can be overly cautious.
Yeah, maybe.
Because there's a certain level of risk just in being in a society.
Sure.
And so we have to balance out all the different risks at any particular point. Because, I mean, my engaging in conversation with you right now, you could stand up and sock me. That's a level of risk.
It is.
It's it's relatively moderate, but
But as the pandemic went on, that was
right. And so there's different risks of being just engaging with other people, and so we have to find the appropriate level of caution for the appropriate level of risk. Because if we are overly cautious, then we will never be able to truly start to thrive as a community. We need to find the right level. Going to the extremes is almost never helpful. There's a Aristotelian theorem that the virtue is a mean between extremes, which means that the virtuous act generally, now this isn't always true, especially with Christian morality, but generally the virtuous act is the middle point between two extremes. So not being overly cautious, but not being too risky at the same time is about where we need to be.
Yeah,
we're just discerning where that is.
Right.
So, John, how was your weekend? How was your experience thus far in Southern Shawnee?
Yeah, it was a busy weekend, that's for sure. There was lots going on, several masses and or at least a few meetings, and I don't know. I'm tired today, so I think that means that we
because
did
you were
a lot.
at all three masses too, right?
Yeah, yes, I was.
Welcome to the pre-schedule.
Yeah, I guess.
And that's a light schedule.
yeah.
Somewhat.
Yes.
I mean, certainly compared to like early divinity when I was doing like 9 on the weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one step at a time. Yeah, you actually had 2 Sunday masses.
I did.
You
binated. I don't binate very often.
No. No. And certainly not trinating. Yeah.
Yep.
So
This is
binate
true.
means you celebrate 2 Mass. Trinate means you
Celebrate
three
three.
Mass.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're really not supposed to quadrinate or whatever that is.
Yeah. Not at all.
Yeah, I was going to mention something. Oh, yeah, we were talking about. I found out about your family history today, or this weekend, about
Family.
your dad.
Oh yes, yes.
So,
So my dad was in the musical Tobit, which was
Yeah.
written by.
which was written by me, and so it was performed. It was performed originally at Sacred Heart. Remember, he's a Sacred Heart parishioner.
Yes.
And then they did it at Good Shepherd. Maybe some of you saw that back in the day. That was about 2006 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so his dad played Raguel.
I was 13 years old.
Yeah. So that was a funny connection that he mentioned, and he was awesome in that show. I was telling him a moment. One of my favorite moments is something that was not in the script, but he came in with a shovel, and because the line was about I'm going to be out back digging your grave or whatever. 'Cause it's a funny book of the Bible. But shows up with his shovel, and it was really funny. And they're kind of the characters are meant to be. They're written to kind of like Hicks or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
He did a good job. But that was funny. The small world there. So. Because I probably haven't seen him since the show.
Yeah, yeah.
But, very good.
Thank you very much. The mass was beautiful. I'm glad you enjoyed, Jen.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
It was lovely to be back and to be with people. So yeah, if you want to come, there's no, just sign up with that sign up Genus,
Mhm.
and that's the best way to do it. And again, this week we still have plenty of room, so there were still plenty of spots to sign up for. So
Yep, probably about 4 to 8 each mass or so.
Yeah,
Something
right.
like that. Mm-hmm.
So we still have room. So I think probably there was people just kind of watching and
Waiting.
trying to see, well, what does it look like and how's it go and will I feel safe in such a situation? So, yeah, as you said, there's always risks. I mean, again, the safest. As I said, I put out a video too. If you want to watch that, that's up on the website. I also made a Spanish one. I don't know if that's gotten on the website yet, but
I think so.
there's a
Oh, on the
yes.
website.
yeah.
It
So I
probably
just
has
made-
not. No.
Okay.
And by probably has not, it has not, because I do that.
Okay. Well, whenever there's time. But I just made a couple of videos just kind of instructing people about what you do and how you sign up. So if you want to go check those out, I was going somewhere with that, but now I forgot. Where was
Talking about safety.
Oh, safety. Right. Thank you. Good job. So the safest place, of course, with no risk at all, is watching at home. That's true. And we're looking at the possibility of, because some people, we want, as you were saying, we want to be there for wherever people are feeling comfortable, which is a
Right.
great way to think of it. So if you are why don't you speak? I speak a
Oh,
lot.
okay, don't worry. So, as I was mentioning before, you have to discern your level of risk that's appropriate for who you are as a human being and where you are in life. And some people, when they've discerned that the level of risk that they have, that they're comfortable with, is just staying at home, we want to be able to be there for them, staying at home. And that's not merely just because of fear or anything. That might be because they have they're immunocompromised or something like that. There may be a really legitimate reason for that. So we want
Right.
to be in the home if you are comfortable at home. If you're comfortable coming to Mass and you've discerned the proper level of risk for yourself, we are here offering Mass for you. If you are comfortable perhaps receiving communion but not going to Mass, we want to be there for you too, and we're trying to discern a proper way to do that. So we are trying to be wherever you are comfortable to be. Mm-hmm.
Right. So we're talking about not parking lot masses. I'm kind of putting my foot down on those just because, one, with the heat and the wind and the sound, trying to make that all work, just outside masses just don't really work very good.
It is very dependent on the weather.
Yeah.
Because the weather can change in Kansas, as we know. So.
Right.
But we are looking at the possibility of receiving communion, not in your car. You have to actually get out of your car, but would be we'd bring communion out to you in the parking lot. We have a system I think would work. We would just need volunteers to help us with that, to park the cars, because the cars would need to be parked 3 stalls away. And the thought is the parking lot is really quite big, and we'd have plenty of room back by the gym. which doesn't matter. I mean, you're far away from the church, but that doesn't matter because you're not coming in anyway. So if you park down by the gym, that doesn't get in the way of the people that are coming to Mass.
Mhm.
Ideally, you would be watching the Mass from your car on a phone or a tablet or something, so you could participate in the Mass and not just drive in 2 minutes at 10:43 just to get communion, because that's not what we're going for, because you're really not supposed to do that anyway, because there is a service that you're supposed to have if you're going to receive communion. We just don't give out communion. Here you go, communion. It's what you do, an examination of conscience, you read a little bit of the scripture, you pray the Our Father, all those things. So it would be presumed that you'd already have done that stuff either in your car or you have driven right from your house and have just arrived.
And considering it is very hot now, that might be reasonable to like do it at your house
right.
beforehand.
That's true.
Yeah, especially if you might have some health difficulties or something like that.
Sure.
We would just ask you to try to make sure that you're not, going chatting at Dunkin' and then come on over and
Run over
directly
and
over there.
get communion real quick.
Communion. You want to be able to receive it in a way that will be appropriate,
Right.
and not only appropriate but edifying for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the important thing to remember about Holy Communion is every time you receive Holy Communion, you are receiving, you have the capacity to receive an abundance of graces, innumerable graces.
Mm-hmm.
But it all depends on your openness at that moment.
Mhm.
And so if you take a few extra moments to prepare yourself to receive Holy Communion, you will receive more grace, you will receive more love of God, the friendship of God working in your soul.
Yeah.
So you're chipping yourself if you're only taking 10 seconds beforehand. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that phrase. I'm sorry. Apparently that's not a good phrase. Sorry, you are...
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, but you smiled. Apparently,
Well, I tried not to.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
You've accused me of smiling twice today.
It's true. Well, you were...
No smiles on Monday.
Don't you dare smile.
So, I'm sorry. We're not supposed to say that word. So...
So if we get some volunteers to help us, we could make that happen, perhaps, of bringing communion outside, so people don't have to come inside. You still have to get outside of your car. Those are the rules, because it is a little bit weird if you're sitting in the passenger seat or whatever, and you're like, well, how many do we have here? And like, well, I got 4 in the car. Okay, here's 4 hosts, and you're distributing them all back in the van or whatever. It's not really respectful of the Blessed Sacrament. So,
yes, you are cheating yourself. I'm sorry. I never realized there were racist tendencies of that word. Father Ken told me about that at one point, and I just have to get it out of my vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. So
yeah, I used to use that word all the time. I try not to. I don't. Yeah, but we learn those things.
Mm-hmm.
And Debbie, just to clarify, I'm glad that you saw it at Sacred Heart and Bev saw it at Good Shepherd. And you have the CD. Great, glad you do. But his dad is not on the CD. That's the Cure concept
Proof of
album or
concept.
whatever. Yeah, it was performed or recording by Cure musicians before it had even been performed. So that was kind of. They did that with Jesus Christ Superstar, if I recall. That there was a concept recording of the music before it was ever. Performed, and that concept album, I think is still pretty popular, and but that was the same kind of thing I had in my idea. It's not the performance copy. This is some ideas of what it could sound like. So,
now, Father, didn't Tobit kind of evolve as you were writing it? As in, you had written it, and then as you were kind of like practicing it, or maybe continuing to write it, you realize like, oh, this kind of has like a 50s flair, like almost like a rock and roll or some type of flair that kind of changed.
Sure. Well, so yeah, I wrote Tobit the script for it, the first draft of the script anyway, when I was a pre-theologian. So my first year of seminary, I wrote it as a response because I was reading the Old Testament over spring break, and I came upon Tobit, and I said, this is a great book. This needs to be a musical. And so I wrote the script, and another seminarian was going to write the music because I didn't write music at the time.
Right.
So I said, how about you write the music? And so Jim Krasinski was supposed to do the music. Well, then we proposed it that we were going to do that to the rector of the seminary, and he shot it down because he didn't want to institute that musical. They used to have programs at the seminary at Mundelein, and he shot it down. I was very disappointed. So anyway, I thought then just sat on my shelf for years, and then I came back and Curie has a really good music program, or at least it did back in the day. I think it still does, but I mean, back in the day when I was there, it was really great. Similar to Good Shepherd, I would say it would be one of the best programs in the diocese for really great and a broad repertoire of music. So anyway, I said, if I'm ever going to do this, I'm going to do that. I have to do this now. So I got a team together of Curie musicians to kind of flesh out these thoughts that I had. And yes, that's what happens when you go into a studio for any music. You have an idea, you have a sketch, you have a demo, and then you turn it over to other musicians, and then they really say, "Well, this is what this song could be," and things that I never saw were brought out as you get other musicians in. So that's just the evolution, I think, of music. When you get really good, talented people, they can really give it a life of its own. But the whole 50s thing, that was whatever her name was, the music director at Sacred Heart, the Australian.
Anne Doherty.
Yeah, right. I didn't see it as a 50s musical, but Anne did. So I envisioned it as like your standard dressing in Old Testament garb, long robes. That was what my vision was. But she said, this whole thing could be a kind of a 50s thing. So, but that was not the way it was originally written.
Right.
That was one interpretation of the musical, and so it was cool. I mean, like you do that with like Shakespeare sometimes or whatever. Let's put this into modern times. That's then what a director can do.
So for those of us who don't know what you're talking about. So the show was done in different styles between Curie and Sacred Heart?
No, so
how was this done? Okay.
Curie of Ours was just a recording of the music. Never.
Okay.
The show was never done at Curie of Ours.
Ah, okay.
So I had the music, and I said, can we record this? And so they had their parts that each person played a character, and they sang in the studio for the original studio cast recording of the musical of Tobit.
Wow.
And then I presented that my good friend, Mike Book, he's a Sacred Heart parishioner, and he talked to Anne, and they had the custom of doing musicals there because they did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. They did several things. They had kind of the custom of doing musicals there. And so Mike said, well, what if we did Tobit at Sacred Heart? I said, cool, great, sounds fun. And so then they took it and then they staged it there at Sacred Heart.
Okay. And that was like a 50s style?
They did it in the 50s style.
What do you mean by 50s style? Because there are a lot of 50s styles. Are you talking like Leave It to Beaver? Are you talking Grease? Are you talking...
I think like Grease kind of type deal. But not super like Grease.
Well, so one song, it's called Medea Country. That song evolved the most. It had a very different sound in my head, but then the guy in the studio said, let's record that like a kind of a Beach Boys-y kind of thing. I think that song is what then inspired Anne to say, let's make the whole show kind of that kind of... It was a little bit Leave It to Beaver, but what they were dressed in, the styles were...
like greasers and like...
yeah, whatever. And then and they were riding on a motorcycle through Medea country and everything.
Wow.
And it was pretty cool. It was pretty well done. But they're the only... So it's been staged a few times. It was done up in New Hampshire. It was
done over in Hayden, right?
Hayden High School did it for their musical one year.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea it was this successful.
Well, that's a very bold stroke use of the
I said
word
it is successful. I didn't say extremely successful.
It was done by a middle school did it.
Okay.
But yeah, it was fun to see that. But each one, that's the fun of being a director, is that you take the script and you take the music and say, how can I make this interesting for our community? And so, it's just been interesting to see all the different performances.
Have you gone to the other ones, like the
I
one
have.
in New Hampshire?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
So that was a friend of mine from seminary,
who
that was the connection. It wasn't just like this random, hey, I heard about your musical.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
never mind.
all of these are just personal connections. But
Okay.
I
I thought maybe you were waiting for Guffman or something.
Yeah, right. But people sometimes ask, are you going to write another one? And no, I don't think so, because that happened at an interesting point in my life because, I used to be a professional actor, so I was in that world and I knew how to write a script. I think I've lost that ability to write a script. So what happened is I wrote the script when I was in pre-theology mostly,
Mm-hmm.
and then I revised it when I was when I was a priest, and I took another look at it from a priest point of view of. So I wrote it I was mostly in the actor world,
Yeah.
and then when I revised it, I was mostly in the priest world, so I could kind of use both things, and I can't ever do that again because I'm not in the theater
Right,
world
right.
anymore. So
That's interesting.
yeah, but anyway, so
It's fascinating.
yeah, it was a fun. It was a fun project. It was really fun to work with all those really talented musicians, and just I think it's interesting to watch how. And I've done another music project, and it's always the same. That I have an idea of what the song is going to sound like in my head, but then you bring it into the studio, and then you get other people working on it.
Yeah.
Like that's what that song could be. Oh, okay, cool, great. And most of the time, I agree. Now, there's been a couple times I'm like, that's not the right sound. I don't like that. So,
Yeah.
but most of the time, it's like, yeah, great.
Interesting.
Very good. Well, how are you all doing? What's going on with you? What are you doing with your life? How was your weekend? We watched a movie. What was it called on Saturday?
Selma.
We watched
Selma.
Selma.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty good.
Yeah, that's what pretty too.
Mhm.
Seems to have a good balance.
Yeah.
They dealt with a lot of different themes very well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Selma's about Martin Luther King.
Mhm.
Go ahead, carry on. I've been talking a lot.
No, sorry, I don't mind. Selma is a movie about the march from Selma to Montgomery in '65, I think it was. Or, somewhere
Yeah,
around there,
64, 65.
64.
Mhm. Was it 64?
I'm not.
It may have been 64. And I thought it did a really great job dealing with a lot of the racial themes. The acting was superb,
Mm-hmm.
very
Mhm.
well. The cinematography was quite beautiful. It had a very clear image of Martin Luther King Jr. So I thought they did a good job of dealing with a lot, because he has a more complicated life than what a lot of
Yeah.
people
Sure. Right.
know of in the school. And so I thought they did a good job of dealing with him as a real human being, rather than
Mhm.
just this guy who got up and gave speeches occasionally. So,
Right.
and the inner conflict between the different civil rights
Yeah.
activists during that time was well demonstrated, I would say. So
Mhm.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. They also dealt. I mean, I've heard people that have frustrations with his personal life, and I thought that they dealt with that as well too.
Yeah.
With, the infidelity or whatever, and
Right. That's what I was kind of alluding to a minute ago.
yeah, that the I thought that was really well handled, and I think that at least as the movie presented it, Martin Luther King Jr. Regretted his actions. They were going to try to work through that, which I thought was beautiful. That at least that's how the movie presented it. And when we talk about marriage, and we work with all
Yeah.
kinds of couples for marriage, people sometimes talk about there's a deal breaker. Well, obviously infidelity is really terrible, but I am always touched and amazed with those that can honestly work through their problems and work through some really terrible things, and they don't just throw out their commitment to marriage because there's been some bad behavior.
Right.
Some of those marriages can be salvageable, and yeah, it's terrible. But with counseling and with the right things, we make mistakes, and I try to work with my couples, as they're preparing for marriage. What are you going to do to safeguard your marriage so that those things don't happen? But also recognizing that you're going to have to forgive each other for a whole bunch of things throughout your marriage, and heaven forbid that happens. But what's that terrible line? Love means never having to say you're sorry or whatever. That
Oh yeah, people say that.
what
I was thinking about having a segment called "Dumb Things People Say." And that would be on there.
Yes, because love means saying you're sorry over and over again, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that part I think was interesting, and then the whole civil rights talking and the various interactions. Yeah, I thought it was good.
And I think it's important to recognize, going back to his infidelity for a quick moment.
Sure.
I think it's important to recognize that the cancel culture we currently have, quote unquote cancel culture, is really dangerous, because if you take that same idea that one person has one moral problem, and so then their full professional life and everything needs to be canceled. You do that to Martin Luther King Jr. You do it to most of the people in humanity.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because all of us have failures.
Right.
And so, I'm not going to judge. I don't know all the details. Also, we're dealing with things in the past, so I don't want to convict a man for things that we don't have enough data on.
Right.
But we have to be careful not to play into that cancel culture, which it makes it so that our it demands a level of perfection that we don't have.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
it demands a level of perfection. Somebody can do really good things and make really, really bad choices in other areas, and
Mhm.
we've got to be able to deal with that intellectually and humanly. If we can't deal with that, then we're going to throw out a lot of really good people or a lot of really good things that people have done.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Right.
I think it's really important to recognize in today's age.
Yeah.
Oh, you've heard some new ones. Cancel culture. Cancel culture is kind of a Twitter thing.
Yeah.
It's very much a Twitter thing. Basically, and you might be able to help me more on this. Can you explain cancel culture?
You Twitty people.
Well, I mean,
I like Twitter.
For some reason, you see it often in the sports world. Like some guy will get drafted to a baseball team. He's right out of college, and then somebody somewhere just digs through every single thing he's ever tweeted. I don't know. Maybe his friends bring up text messages that he sent or whatnot, and they literally find dirt on him. Well, not literally, but they find dirt on him.
There's dirt on my phone.
Let me correct myself. So they find dirt on him, and then they just spread that message, and then the guy gets canceled. He gets, I think, like blackballed. Like might be a more like older term for
Right.
kind of what cancel culture is about. But
Right. Blackballed that would be a term for that. That
Yeah.
actually comes from monastic life, actually.
That's
I didn't know that.
Right. So how monks vote on new monks coming in is they vote with white and black balls,
Mm.
and so every monk, because if you enter into a monastery, it's not only you choosing to enter the monastery. The monks vote on you being
Yeah.
a good candidate for monastic life. So. I think you can join without having a vote done when you want to become a postulant, which is like first phase, maybe even the novitiate. But I'm not sure about like first vows and solemn vows, but especially on solemn vows, you can get blackballed in a certain way, one or
Mhm.
two black balls put in, and you are kicked out of the monastery. So
Yeah.
and that happens even to this very
Interesting.
day. So not kicked out, but it's a mutual decision by everybody that this is the life that God's calling you to do. So,
Well, sure, and then monastic life is about the community, right? And so the community. If you want to enter into a community, you have to kind of fit into that community, and the community has the right to say, "This community is not for you, and we don't want you."
Yeah.
Quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Who was that politician? Maybe people can. Let's see here. It was back in I was at Curie, so it was a 2004 election. I think it was Democratic senator or something, and he gets up and he's doing this thing. He's getting all passionate. And he goes, "Yeah!" And that just went nuts. And just because I don't remember what all the was it some sort of what?
Yeah. Okay, but what happened after that?
Well, then he just, everyone made fun of him for this one, outcry. We're going to go up to Washington and we're going to, yeah! Or I don't know what it was. And then-
Interesting.
so one action,
Huh.
basically, it seems to be, cost his entire campaign because
Right.
of one thing that he said that he just got emotional, I don't know what happened. But
Yeah.
Right.
if anyone can...
Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes one action does deserve to.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it
Well,
sound like, one
sure.
mistake. No, sometimes it's true.
Sure.
But we also have to keep in mind that there's a lot of things going. There is, because we were all. Isn't this really why Jesus came down to die on the cross? Because we were all blackballed for our failure of sin. I guess you can. I don't know. Maybe. Never thought of it that way. I'd have to consider that. But there are certain actions that, if you if you do that once, you're out. That's what it is. But
Sure.
But when it comes to things like that, that's silly.
I know.
I remember another example of it is Steve Ballmer, who was the CEO of Microsoft. There's this great video of him. Do you know what I'm
I
talking
think so, yes.
There's a great video of him in the mid-90s at the height of Microsoft in a certain way, coming on stage and yelling, developers, 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 and he's like hot and sweaty and overweight and gross. And from that point on, anytime he came on stage, he was always like chanting, developers, 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 and it became just utterly absurd.
I have no concept of that one, but Howard Dean, good job, thank you very much. And I think that his whole campaign collapsed after that one rally that he had. Now maybe there were other circumstances, but it seemed like it all came down to that. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead and look up Howard Dean.
Also look up Steve Ballmer developers. You will be on the floor. It's so weird. But there's also do not judge others. Yeah, exactly. It's really important to avoid that type of hypocrisy.
Yes. Well, that's the whole thing that I think. I mean, not to get too political, but I said in a homily last year or something. Those principles to remember. I wasn't there is one of those things to remember. And so, like we're watching the news unfold about certain events, we are sometimes quick to jump to the bandwagon of saying this person did this terrible thing, and we might even have video evidence of it being a terrible thing, but we have to back up and say, now, I'm not the judge. I wasn't there. Now, I was talking about that last year, that we had that whole thing, and I spoke up real quickly, I think, and too quickly, about the March for Life thing with that kid interacting with the Native American there.
right.
Yeah.
And the first clip that we had was, looked awful, and people were quick to jump. But then when the clip really expanded, you saw that there's a little bit more to the story than we were letting on. And so we always have to be careful about we can judge action. Here's a basic principle. We can judge actions, we can't judge people. And so we can condemn any kind of action as good, evil, or neutral, and we can look at it. Is hurting another human being evil? Yes, it is. With the bracket sometimes, I mean, you can correct me if I'm misspeaking, but with a bracket of like boxing, right? Because people have come to an agreement this is a sport we're going to play. But hurting another person, a child of God, a temple of the Holy Spirit, yes, is bad, is evil. But is that a sin? We don't know. We have to. That's between that person and God to figure out, what was on that person's soul, what was happening, what was the intention, all those kinds of things, which that we really can't know. But we can see an action that happens and say that is bad and that is condemnable, but we can't condemn the person. Would that be right?
Yeah, I would say so. Certainly.
So we can't judge others. We can judge actions.
Exactly.
Okay, so anything else? I forgot to say hi. My poor nieces, they've been waiting this whole show maybe, and I haven't even said a word to them. I feel bad. So when are they going to talk to us? So let me go over to the O-Camera. I almost forgot. Well, hello. Look, there's John. He's here with us. He's on the O-Camera. Maybe this should be the O-Camera art or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So hope you're having a great day, Rachel and Rosalie and Laura. And it's going to be a hot one today, I guess. So it might be a little hot to go swinging, but I don't know. Are there sprinklers over there? Is that a thing? But I hope you're able to enjoy the day. And yes, and hello, Dryling girls. I hope you have a great day as well. Lots of fun for you going on today as well. So yeah, I'm excited that the basement here is back in action after all the. I do love a basement on a nice hot summer day.
Yeah.
I love going down there, and we're trying to set up our. We have a television down there, and trying to set that up for
home theater
thing.
We're not very far on it.
And we're not going over the top. Don't. I mean, we're not.
Well, we haven't even.
So my phrases that I say all the time. This is my first pandemic. Always invited, never forced. And then my other one that I say all the time is it came with the house. And so that's one of my favorite rectory phrases is we have this big television. I didn't buy it. It came with the house. We have a sound bar. I didn't buy it. It came with the house. We also have a subwoofer. I didn't buy it. It came with the house. So we're trying to see if there's a way that we can make these pieces work so that we can have a nice kind of theater thing going downstairs. And you might have access, you say, to stuff.
Yep.
So-
Yep. To stuff.
But that was kind of fun last night. We were trying to figure that out. And,
Yep.
yeah.
Seeing if we need to buy anything.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
put the pieces together. So, yeah. And then, we were watching one of my favorite summer movies. Maybe at some point we could talk about summer movies.
Mhm.
I have categories of movies. There are movies that I watch at certain periods of time.
It's a very odd distinction.
So I do that. So I love the seasons. I love having the.
I most of the time know what season we're in.
So people ask me boy, it's going to be hot out there today. I'm like, yeah, I love it. Because that's what I want. I want summer to be summer. I want winter to be winter. So I want summer to be really nice and hot. I want winter to be nice and cold.
I just want it to be fall all the year round.
Yeah, no. Then I'd move to San Francisco, and San Francisco is nice, but I like having
You
summer.
see this pale head? This pale head don't like summer days.
My toes go numb during the winter, so I'm more
Come
of a
on
fall
now.
guy as well.
I mean, do you see this pale head? I mean, come on now. That's where we wear hats and lots of sunscreen, and that's why we
But
have
you're not
basements
allergic to
Yeah.
sunscreen.
What?
But you're not allergic to sunscreen. I'm allergic to sunscreen.
Are you seriously
I
Yes.
actually am, yeah.
allergic to sunscreen?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Well, apparently. I'm not joking. I started breaking it out, and my eyes are puffing up. And this only started happening 3 years ago.
Is there?
4 years ago.
There's got to be a.
So I can wear zinc oxide sunblock, but
Okay.
I can't wear any of the other.
Like no, this
oxide.
banana boat stuff.
No, that stuff makes me break out. I don't know.
Huh.
I
Well,
don't-
I never.
It started in the hats are great for pale heads. You're right, but this happened 3 or 4 years ago. I was stationed at St. Joseph and Shawnee, and I had always worn sunblock. It was no big deal, and I was going to go teach summer school or something like that, vacation Bible school, something like that, and I was in charge of the outdoor activities. So I thought, it's a hot summer day.
Mhm.
This pale skin needs some block on it. So
Yeah.
I lathered up. I went out there, and within 20 minutes or so, and all the kids were wondering why I was crying because my eyes were starting to puff up. I mean, tears going down my face.
Getting so
It
emotional.
was, yeah. So then I tried. I couldn't figure out what it was the first day. So then I did it again, and the next day, and it happened again. And the third day, I was like, I think it's sunblock. And that summer, I found out that I am allergic to most of the standard sunblocks now.
Well,
I don't know
That's
why.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we watched a little bit of Jurassic Park, which was one of my summer movies. I only watch that in the summer. I've got a whole stack here. These are my. See, I have to remind these people what these things are. These are called DVDs and Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've heard of them. They read
Do you,
about them in
do you
their
like
history
put that
books.
in your Betamax or what?
That's right. That's right. You put it on the record player. Put in the needle on it, and
Right.
So yeah. So
How do you get the little movie off of that thing? It's just like, let's see. It's like, here's Knight's Tale. Okay. Oh, there's no DVD in here.
oh no. Where'd that
Somebody's. Let's see.
go? That's probably not in there too.
Oh,
That's the
no.
player. That's true.
The Last Starfighter.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Last Starfighter. What is that movie?
Never heard of her.
Okay. Let's.
Just
okay,
this
so-
half on that one. That's
Okay.
Independence Day. It's a little early for
So
Independence
you-
Day.
Okay. Play. How do you do it? Just look at it.
Siri, play. It's not working.
Is that working? That was good. That was yeah.
Well played.
Oh my.
Yeah, these are my little
Okay.
sections of that I take out, and I don't need to like necessarily watch them. They're great just to have on. So I like kind of lighthearted, fun adventure movies. That's kind of my standard go-to for a good summer movie that is great to watch in the basement with a nice sound system or whatever. So so less on angst. That's one of the. I was trying to think what makes a summer movie, but less on angst.
So Star Wars Attack of the Clones is right out because that's all
Super
about
angsty.
angst.
Well, I like Star Wars Attack of the Clones.
So I've
But
heard.
yes, but I mean that's a good distinction. But I think all the Star Wars movies are pretty good, pretty good on their summerness.
Okay.
Yes, we have 2 VCRs here,
Mhm.
and I have a few tapes that I want to
You
throw
know,
in.
I guess, did you ever experience the VHS tapes that had that were made by Disney that had those great big plastic containers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, those boxes.
Oh, yes.
That was prime '90s kid right there.
Yes, oh yes, those were. I've got a very great picture of my nephew Jacob, who just turned 26 this weekend. I guess it
Okay.
was. He's like 3, and he's like, it's like, it looks like it must be a really hot day, and he's just got this expression on his face. He's really happy, and like he's sweating. But there's some Disney
VHS tape.
VHS
yeah.
tape.
Mhm.
Yep.
Those were actually very well designed because they could take a lot of abuse from children.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just think of the Rugrats orange
Yeah,
VHS
exactly.
tape. I think it was Rugrats.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, The Last Starfighter is a classic. It doesn't always age well. A lot of these movies don't necessarily age well, but it's also interesting. It's one of the first computer animation. They were really dabbling in computer animation. It's really dated, but this is like 1982 or something like that, or
Yeah.
84. They're kind of like Tron. I don't know if you've ever seen Tron, but they were dabbling in this computer animation thing, and it's very primitive, but there's just something about the mood that feels summery. So
Okay.
I like those movies. But I've got my fall movies. I've got my winter movies.
What is a fall movie?
A fall movie is like I Am Legend. That's a fall
Oh
movie.
yeah, that is kind of a fall movie.
Okay.
The Illusionist. Those are
Okay.
fall movies. For some reason,
So it's getting more angsty.
it is getting more angsty. Absolutely. Fall is very angsty kind of stuff. That's good for that kind of time. Or in the middle of the deep, bleak midwinter. Those are good for angsty shows.
Yeah.
So
I find it really interesting that you rewatch movies as frequently as you do. I don't really rewatch movies much.
you know,
I
I do less of that, actually. I was introduced to that concept when I was first ordained, actually. There was an Indian priest, and I was saying, hey, how about we watch this movie? He says, no, I've seen that. I'm like, what? Why would you not watch it again? So I do like watching movies again, but only certain types of movies. There's true, and often it's mostly background if I'm watching a
Yeah.
movie again. So I'll put that on, and maybe I'll be working on stuff, and then I can kind of come in and out. So I like that.
Okay.
All of these summer movies are stuff I can do with that. So like I can be filing papers or whatever and have Jurassic Park on or whatever. I was cleaning the basement a little bit while the rest of Jurassic Park was on, and I know that movie so well. I just like having the background. So
Interesting. Well, yeah, I appreciate that too because we rewatched because you rewatched Super 8 2 weeks ago, and we rewatched it last week, and I found I enjoyed it just as much the second time as I did the first time.
Yeah.
And you still thought it was mediocre. So.
That was, yeah, well, I mean,
It's okay, you know.
but it's also a pretty good summer movie. But a little too much language on that one. But so one of the funniest movies.
We're waiting all day to record your favorite song off the radio onto cassette.
Yeah, indeed. Hocus Pocus, I presume that's a fall movie. That doesn't seem like a
It's
summer
certainly
movie to me.
a fall movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so some of those like Halloween-y movies get in there. I've got a kind of little selection of those. Young Frankenstein. Young Frankenstein. I wouldn't want to watch that in the summer. I want to watch that in the fall when it feels autumnal.
Okay.
Okay.
I see. Autumnal. Yes.
So yeah, if you would have offered to say, let's watch Young Frankenstein, I'd be like, nope, that's a fall movie.
Interesting.
So, no. So I got those kind of separations. Yes, recording, waiting for that moment where you could record. Then you never got the first moment, and the DJ would be talking over the introduction, and you can't get a good recording of it. Yeah, those are the days. These guys have no concept of that. Those many hours.
Yeah, I've heard it that those days existed.
Yeah, I've heard legends.
So, well, I think that's all we got for today.
Yeah, I think somebody asked if my seminary will be open in fall. I'm not sure yet, but on the last day of school, the Archbishop of Denver was there, and he said that he really wanted us back in the fall. He thinks it's a lot better to be in person than kind of the remote deal. So, especially when we're all across the country. So he plans to have us back in Denver. So it's my plan as well.
Things change day by day.
Yes.
So we shall see. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. The two of us for sure will be here tomorrow. And then always invited but never forced on a Tuesday is Father Ashmore. So he may be with us tomorrow or he may not be. So But we'll be back 10 o'clock tomorrow. Hope to see you there, and enjoy the rest of your day, this nice summer day. Reminder that we are only doing rosaries now
On Saturdays.
live with folks on Saturdays at 5ish, but not this Saturday because I got a baptism.
Okay.
So no rosary at noon today.
But I'm still praying my rosary daily, and I hope
I'm
you
trying
are
to
too.
as well.
Yeah.
So very good. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you all very much. God bless you.
See ya.